Hey crafty friends, it's Joy here for Honeybee Stamps, and today we're going to do some messy coloring on these beautiful florals. Okay, so I have die cut from watercolor cardstock the bold background Chinoiserie. I'm sure I murdered that. And I left it in the big main part, I left in my watercolor paper because I'm going to do some watercolor markers, Karen watercolor markers, and we're going to do some messy coloring. It's so easy. Like, I feel like there's no thought to it other than picking out your color combination. So this is the background that has all of the leaves and vines and things like that. So I'm going to use two colors of green. Now, I am not coloring these images perfect. I am just getting some color down. And that's kind of the point with this messy coloring. It does not have to be perfect because we're going to bring water in and we're going to blend it. And it turns out beautiful. Like, it has all of this variation and you really didn't even have to put any effort into it. So I'm using a darker green for the stems, and then I will bring in a lighter green for some of the leaves that are already on here. And you can see I am not even coloring them all, and that is on purpose. I don't want to color all of the leaves, and I'm going to do the same thing with the flowers. I want to leave areas so when we add water, we can blend that out. But it's messy. This is completely messy. Sometimes when I do my watercoloring markers, I'm much more intentional with it. But I have to say, I really do love how these turned out. So now that I have my color there, I'm going to dip my paintbrush into some water, and I am just going to get that ink blended over everything. Now, I don't want to over blend because I don't want to lose all of the variation in color. So I am adding the water just enough to get the image colored. So there will be darker areas and lighter areas, and of course that's what you want. You don't want a color wash where everything just looks the same and there was no reason to add two different colors, if that makes sense. So now that that's done, I'm going to set that aside to dry, and we are going to color the leaves. Now, you only need to die cut the leaves once, and for some reason I did it twice. I am using the same two colors. I've got the darker, I'm putting it at the base. I'm going to bring in some of that lighter green, but you only need to use the leaf die one time. The flowers, you need to die cut all of those twice. So let's bring in that water, and again, don't over blend. Just grab some of that color and blend to the top. And I'm also making sure I have a pretty wet brush. I am using a watercolor brush, so it does hold a good amount of water. But you can see I'm just dragging the color up enough so that way I don't have really any white areas. I want to have the variation in color again. Sorry, I think I had to grab something really fast. I'm so sorry. So let me do those last little ones here. But you can already see the variation in the color, and I think it's beautiful. Then we have our flowers. We have a large, a medium, and then like a bud flower that I am going to be coloring. So I've got two colors of pink, a darker and a lighter. I am not making this perfect. This first one I kind of started off that way. The rest of them are much more messy. And again, I love how it looks. A lot of water, and I'm not over blending it. I'm just, as soon as it really gets colored, letting it stay. We have all the little pieces here that I'm using with that darker pink, and then I will bring in that lighter pink in just a second. And then you're going to see it's just messy. There's no rhyme or reason. I'm just putting color down and then dipping my brush in water and giving that a quick blend. So we're going to have some pink flowers and some purple flowers. There's 3 different sizes. So here's the other 2 sizes I will show you in the purple. So I'm using a darker and a lighter purple. There's different layers to this, and just adding that little bit of color. Let's dip into that water and then go over it. Again, messy coloring. It is not perfect. You don't want it to be, but when this dries, the variation in color is so pretty. And when you layer these on top, I think it looks fabulous. I love the imperfection of it, but it almost looks intentional. So super easy. Now let's put these flowers together. I'm not going to show all of them. I'm just going to show the 3. You have these little tiny edge pieces on that bigger flower that you're going to put in place. Just using some liquid glue. And you can see here that these ones are completely dry, and look at the variation in color. I think it's so fantastic. Now, of course, we did use 2 different colors of pink, but even on that largest one, that was 1 color of pink, and look at the variation. So really fantastic. I like the Karen markers for something like this because I think the colors are super saturated as opposed to Zig markers, which I use all the time and I love them. So when I'm doing something more intentional, I love the Zig watercolor or clean color real brush markers. Let's put together our medium-sized flower. It's kind of like the lovely layers, you know, that Honeybee has. So you'll just find where that little piece goes. And there is, of course, the layering chart that you get. I think you get them in the dies, or they might be online. One of the 2, but you have them. And then let's put together that smaller little flower. Now this card is really simple because it's all about the coloring. And so I didn't really add anything to the background. So you'll see when we adhere this down, why? Because it just really pops with a white background. I didn't want to add another color. I didn't want to take away from these really pretty flowers. But we are going to add our flowers here with some liquid glue. And then the leaves that we colored, you're going to adhere some of those to this background. There's already existing leaves, but then you can adhere some more leaves. So I'm going to adhere those down in those spots that they go, and look at how pretty they are. I just think they turned out so lovely. I'm very happy with it, and it was just so easy, and like you just didn't even have to think about how to color them. I'm adhering all of these fun little leaves. You're going to adhere them underneath so you can have like that vein go up the center of the leaf. So I'm adding a little bit of liquid glue up the center of the flower, and then you place these down. So there are 6 total flowers or 8 total flowers that you adhere. I think there's 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, I think there might be 6. So let's get, because I have die cut multiples, because I die cut the leaves twice, I had to search out which leaves went where. But they're all fun. They all go in different directions. They all look different. I just think I love the detail of that. I think it's so pretty. All right, let's get our last, I think I have 1 more after this at the bottom, but look at how that fills that out so nicely. It's so pretty. I love the variation of the green leaves too. I think that turned out really nice. And then I want to do some splatter. I'm using a white luster brush pen, but you could splatter with anything. And I definitely am going heavier on the flowers themselves, but I definitely want some on the leaves. I just felt like this design could really handle the splatter, and I've been loving splattering everything lately. So if I can find a reason to splatter, I'm doing it. I am stamping the sentiment from the So Special stamp set. It says, "Wishing you the best." I'm inking that up with black ink, and then I will use the coordinating die to die cut out that sentiment. I added foam adhesive behind all of the flowers, most of the leaves, if not all. And I do want this popped up. So this is my A2 size white card base. I'm going to place that down right in the center, and then a little bit of foam adhesive on that sentiment, and I can place that on there. So like I mentioned, this card is simple, but it's beautiful. And I think these flowers pop so nicely off of that white, just white plain background. Let's take a look at this up close. Look at all that pretty splatter. But again, look at all that variation. You would not think that you were just doing messy coloring. I think it turned out fantastic. Thank you guys so much for stopping by and watching. I hope that you enjoyed this project. I hope you feel inspired, and I hope you have an amazing day.